And that is how we will start our questions. The next one is what are some of the common nutrition gaps? Feel free to, if you find that there's a question in the second set of the question that helps us to answer the first part of the question, then that's the order we'll go. We'll start off with Tenuke, and feel free to, then after that, we'll go to Dr. Mutungi, and then we'll go to Jolie. Feel free to take about 3 or 2 minutes on any of these, and then we will embark on that set of questions in the same order.
Okay.
So up to you.
Thank you very much. When we talk about positive discipline in children, we always have to think about what is the end goal. Whenever we forget the end goal, then we're not going to do the process right. So the end goal is to have a child who is responsible, a child who is well-behaved, a child who does what he or she is supposed to do. That is the end goal. So we need to start with actually training. You talked about discipline, but discipline actually starts with training. Your children have to have expectations of what you want, and not just they do something and then you just start punishing. So we're talking about discipline. So there are some principles that we can explore if we really want discipline that is positive for our children. The first one is mutual respect. As a culture, we tend to see respect one way. Parents are supposed to respect children, or children are supposed to respect parents, but parents are not required or not even expected to respect their children. So I think if we get that one right, that we need to treat our children with dignity, even as we maintain our authority as parents. And then we need to model that respect. They need to see the same behavior that we require of them. They need to see that in us. Also, in disciplining our children, we need to look at the root cause. Many times you see a child, maybe the child looks unhappy. Some parents will even scold for that. Why are you not happy? Why, And if the child says, I'm not happy, why not? I give you food, I do all of this. So sometimes there's a root cause, there's a reason. And our children are humans. They may be little, but they are humans. They have emotions. So maybe there's a reason that they're acting the way that they're acting. And then we also need to place emphasis on the efforts that our children are making rather than the result. So sometimes you ask your child to do something, to correct something, and you're expecting that they will do better. Look at the process, look at the efforts that they are making, not necessarily at the result. So a child has a D, and you want that child to, of course, have an A. If you see that the child is making efforts, truly making effort, and maybe the effort leads them to a C, a C, you should praise that effort. Yes, they are not at A, the result that you want, but praise the effort. And I think the last thing I will say, and I'll yield to someone else, is we need to make sure that as we discipline, we make logical consequences and natural consequences. So if the issue is with the phone, maybe a child, you said, you should put your phone down at 10 o'clock, and you find out that the child is still on the phone at midnight. The issue is about the phone. So don't make the punishment, oh, I won't buy you this, or you won't go somewhere. Connect whatever punishment, I don't want to say punishment, whatever discipline you are given, make sure that it is connected to what the child did, so that the child can really understand that I'm being disciplined, not just that Dad is just mad at me and is just punishing me. Make it relatable to exactly what they've done. Thank you. I'll stop here for now.
That's beautiful. I think it felt like we should be going on. I will punt this to Dr. Penina.
Thank you. I'm glad that we are on the same page. I felt like we were reading from the same book. And as I was thinking through this, it made me just think through most childhood in African society, let's say 20 years ago or 30 years ago, where you'll be afraid to go talk to your parents about something you did wrong. Because, the next thing, it's going to be some punishment, either a slap or some bad words, something like that. And that in itself does not encourage, it doesn't promote positive discipline. One, you're afraid, and what that does is it will stop you from having communication with your parents. And even though it's going to stop you from what you were either doing something wrong and you were caught, you'll stop it because you get a slap. So you stop it right there. But it doesn't help you understand why did you do wrong and what can you do right. Positive discipline is teaching children life skills, how to acquire life skills responsibly, with respect. And it's about giving them constructive thoughts and constructive way of understanding what they need to do and where they need to get to. It needs to be consistent. It needs to have patience. Both parents have to be on the same page, because children will go back and forth between parents and they'll try to see who will give a better answer or an answer that they want. Parents have to be on the same page. And it's very, very important to talk among both parents to know what they need to do for the children in a positive way. Another thing is encouraging them through cooperation and mutual respect, foster problem solving. If a child comes in, and I'll use the same example, like homework, right? Or just not doing well in school. A child comes home and says, oh, they're sad, I didn't do well in school. The first thing to do is understand, why did that happen? Don't say, why didn't you do well in school? So-and-so is doing so well, but you're not doing well. What's wrong? You have to understand what has happened. Why did you not do well? And do you feel like you did your best? And from there, what can you do to improve? Now, the good thing is you have to tell the child, I am so happy that you came and told me about this. So what that does is makes the child very comfortable. I'm actually here with my parents and they're listening to me. So then they'll be able to come actually back for whatever other problem that they have. They'll be able to come to you because it's that open communication channel. And then from there, you discuss with the kid of how to get to the level that they would want to get to. And like other panelists said, don't just look at the end result. You look at improvement. You look at where the child is, validate where they are, encourage them to improve from there, and discuss with the child how to get to that point. If it's putting more time in whatever subject they didn't do well, do that. If it means that the parents help them read or whatever they're doing, that needs to be discussed in a more respectful, mutual way, that the child feels like they have been seen, they have been heard at home. And with time, you notice that they change, just their approach in school, their approach at home, their approach with homework. Using kind words, firm communication is very, very important. And I'll say this for like the little kids, for example, like 1 or 2 year olds, they'll have tantrums and they will not understand some of these things. What is firm or kind communication? Let's say, for example, because everybody is on the phone and there's lots of screen time going on in our day, and let's say a child gets a phone, okay, and you say you have 15 minutes to play whatever they're playing or whatever music they're listening to. And after 15 minutes, you take the phone away. You say, okay, now it's time. It's 15 minutes. It's time to keep the phone down. Can I have the phone back? What will happen majority of the time will be there'll be a tantrum initially, because even though they know it's 15 minutes, but they want to keep going. But being firm and kind, tell them it's 15 minutes and it's done. The phone needs to be put on the side. If that doesn't happen, then these are the consequences. You're going to lose your privileges of having the phone next time. And those things have to be consistent. That message has to be consistent in whatever is happening. And with time, the child understands this is the way it's going to be, and they move in that direction. And I think I'm going to give it to the next panelist.
Thank you, Penina. I invite Jolly.
Thank you for your invitation. For me, what I'm gonna say is when it comes to discipline and how to help our community and the children, how they can become better leader of tomorrow. First, we have to have relationship with our kids from the beginning, from the childhood, because sometimes it goes with the age. There's the age where you talk to kids, they listen to you once. You talk to them, you tell them, this is what I'm giving you to do, this is what you shouldn't do. And there's some age when the time comes, even if you say something, they are starting challenging their parents. You don't have to tell me what to do. I don't have to go by your rules. Already, let's say I'm 16, I'm 18. In that age, what kind of situation we face and what kind of discipline we give. It's age where they are becoming teenagers. And if we read the words of God, it tells us, children, you should obey your parents, and parents, you shouldn't provoke your kids, but you have to raise them in the way of the Lord. So there are things that we have to tell them, and there are things that we have to give them time. It's not always we have to be straight with them. And there are some situations you don't have to be soft. There are situations where you have to be a little bit hard so that when they go out there, they know that, okay, my mom told you me this, my dad told me this. And building relationship with our kids is very important, especially when it comes to we don't have much time with our kids. Where we come from, kids, they go to school half day. Here, kids goes to school the whole day. Parents, we are home taking care of the kids. Back home, we do that. But here, we are just changing shift with our kids. We go to work, they are coming home. They go to school, we are coming from work. So what do we do for us to follow up with their education, to follow up with their feelings, what they are feeling, what they are doing? Because before we discipline our kids, we have to know what is going on with them. They may be doing things out of not knowing what they are doing. They may be doing things, there's something going on in their mind. But if we just jump in and discipline them without knowing what feelings they have and what they are going through, it makes that relationship go further away. Then that's why they go out there trying to find who to help them to release what they have inside their mind. And most of the time, kids don't get people who give them good advice. When it comes to parents, we both parents have to work together as a team, whether it's time to discipline, whether it's time for teaching, whether it's time for a family. We have to be together as a couple to teach our children from the beginning. What kind of children do we have to give? Do we want to give birth? How do we raise our children? How do we communicate with our children? Because when we are giving rules, it has to be from both parents. When the kids break the rules, all parents we have to work together so that they know our parents are team. And if they are team, I can't go to my mom and she say the opposite of what dad say. When we are not team, we are not helping the future of our kids. Now, we have to focus on our kids' education. When they say, okay, something, let's say I get a call from school, your child fight in school, or your child is not doing good in school, they're not doing their homework, they're not focusing, they're making noise when the teacher is teaching. We have to know from the beginning, how was my child before he goes to school, before she goes to school, and from kindergarten, from first grade to fifth grade or to high school, how was my child? That's when we have time to sit with them and ask what is going on. Is everything okay? Do you need help? Is there something we can do as a parent? At the same time, we have to be in communication with the teachers. We have to be communication with the teachers to know what is going on with the kids. Because if we just go ahead and discipline or yelling or shouting without knowing where the source of the problem is coming from, that's when we lose the communication, we lose the trust, we lose the relationship. So we have to build the relationship not only as a parent, but with the teacher too, with the school, so that when something happens, you know where to dig deep and find out how you can help the child. And let's not forget that no matter what effort we can put in when it comes to discipline, we have to know that God, God is our help. God can give us enough knowledge to know how to deal with our children. And I'm sorry to say this because a lot of people really don't believe in this kind of things, but we come from Africa. We know these things is happening. Some kids are being possessed. Some kids are being possessed and they do things without knowing. They do things, they don't want to do it, but out of nowhere, they just do it. And no matter how much you discipline them, they don't change, they don't listen. But if we put God in that issue, it helps us because God says the children are our gift. He gave us as a gift, and we have to ask him, how do I take care of this gift? Help me to take care of this gift. It's very important. We can use our knowledge, we can use our power, we can use everything we have, but sometimes it doesn't work. But if we involve God in a situation, it helps us. He helps
Thank you.
us a lot, and he make us get even more knowledge and more way of dealing with our children when they are in their 20s, when they are in their 30s, when they are in their 15, 18. It help us. But if we are just using our own knowledge and our own idea without involving God, a lot of situation we end up into bad ways and kids stay away from us and we can't handle them no more.
Thank you. All right, I'll follow up with a quick question and I'll give each of you 1 minute. The panelists, this is just a follow up to the same question. And what I'm going to ask is, how do parents balance between discipline and encouragement while still extending empathy to nurture a resilience in their children? And I'll start with you, Jolie, and I'll give you just 1 minute. Then I'll go to Penina 1 minute and finish with
Okay.
make it for 1 minute. So how can parents balance discipline and encouragement while still showing empathy to nurture resilience in their children?
In my understanding and my experience, no matter what we do, when children do mistake, there's always two ways. It's either they knew what they were doing or they don't know what they were doing. And us as a parent, we have to figure out those kind of things in order for us to be there for them, even if they make mistake. And if they do something that is very, very bad, there's always that way of regretting, but they're not gonna show it to us. But we have to make sure that we understand the situation and empathy with them at the same time. I know it's not easy. It's not easy, but we have to work together with the kids.
Thank you. Dr. Penina?
One thing I'm reminded is we have to be present with our kids, and we cannot delegate parenting. And one of the things in creating balance and nurturing resilience, I would say thinking of it as time in versus time out. And if a child has done something wrong, instead of time out, think of it as time in. And what time in I mean is where you actually sit down with the child and go through the issues that have happened, whatever situation has happened. And both parent and the child understand what was the problem and how can you solve the problem and how can you make sure that that does not happen again. Rather than a timeout, even though there's a place for timeout, a timeout is where you tell someone, go to a corner and think about what you've done, or go to a corner and be quiet. But actually having both participants together and talk through what the problem is in a respectful way, that will enable the child to get a better understanding. I'm not going to say that they don't always understand, but actually get a better understanding of what is the problem and how can I solve it. The child is able to come up with a solution, and I as a parent guide the child on how to move forward from whatever situation is. The other thing is teaching the child how to handle mistakes and failures, setbacks, and forge like a growth mindset. And for example, let's say a child goes for an interview and they don't do well, and they come home and they are sad, right? Anybody will be sad if they don't do well in an interview. And you use that time to show them, not always, life is not always straight. It's not a straightforward, it's not a straight line all the time. But you help them understand their failures in life. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. And you use that time to create sort of a list of what happened, what are things that you can draw from that interview, and how can you change so the next interview you'll be able to do better. You'll be more prepared in the next interview. And talking through failures and being able to handle mistakes in a more emotionally mature way, it's better than pinning them down. If they come home and they didn't get their job because the interview didn't go well, don't push them down because they're already feeling bad. And the worst you can do is actually make them feel worse. Turn that around and actually use it positively for them to get something better out of their mistake. The other thing I would say is developing boundaries. very, very important in whatever discipline that we're trying to achieve with the children. It's important for them to know firmly what the boundaries are. You know, if, and again, I'm going to go to the phone because that's one of, I think, a struggle that is in the generation that we are in the screen. Knowing that, you know, if you have the phone for an hour, you put it away at 9 p.m. and that's 9 p.m. And it has to be consistent. The boundary has to be there. It cannot be 9:10, 9:20. It has to show that at 9 p.m. the phone is off. If that does not happen, there are consequences that will have already been discussed between the parent and the child, and that has to be firm. If the consequences are you don't get the phone for a week, it stays that way, but you do not go back and forth. And it's very important. The children will understand when there's a firm boundary, and it's good to be, it's important to be a friend of the children. It's important to have firm boundaries as a parent, but in a more respectful way. Sorry, I think I took too long.
No, that's fine. That's a pretty good explanation. Thank you. Anuke.
Yeah, so I think it's very important to set clear expectations. So the problem is not with the rules, but make sure that the rules are fair, that is age appropriate. You know, you don't discipline a 3-year-old as
Did you
if you're
say fair?
disciplining.
I'm glad my daughter is not in this meeting. I don't know where she learned that.
It's not fair. It's not fair. Yeah, maybe we are not. So we need to make sure that the rules are fair, that you're not treating a 3-year-old like a 10-year-old. And not only do we make the rules clear, we need to be consistent, even in the enforcement, just like Dr. Penina said. Also, we need to be able to deal with the whys. You know, in our culture, it's like my mom would say, obey first and then complain. I'm like, after I obeyed, what if I wasn't supposed to do that and now I'm complaining afterward? So our children will ask.
Faiza, please mute yourself.
So our children will ask why, and there's no problem with that. Let's tell them the reason behind the rules, and they might be more ready to follow the rules. You know, the reason I don't want you to drive at night, you know, is because if you have any problem at night, maybe you have a flat tire or something, then, you know, you may get in trouble. If you tell them the reason, you know, they don't have the capability in their brains to be able to understand these things. We take it for granted that anyone should know that, you know, A equals B, but they don't. But if we take the time to explain the rules to them, we'll know that, you know, they will be more willing to obey the rules. And then we need to take the idea of punishment away from our heads and replace that with discipline. Because at the end of the day, when you have a child, your intent is not just, I want this child to be hurt, I want them to feel bad and all of this, but you want a positive outcome. So, and we need to use our discipline as a teaching opportunity because we're trying to develop humans who are going to be useful to themselves and the society. So you're grounded. You can say, what can you do differently next time? So still showing empathy, even as you are disciplining the child. And the child can see that mommy doesn't just hate me, daddy doesn't hate me, but they're actually being normal. We're working on this together. And then validate their emotions. You know, as adults, we get angry, we get frustrated, but somehow we don't respect that in our children. Why are you angry? Why are you frustrated? Well, they're human like us. So you can admit and validate their emotions. I know this is frustrating for you, you know, but I trust that you can handle it. And that helps them to build, you know, this emotional resilience that we're talking about. And lastly, I'll say always be a safe and supportive presence for them. Let your child know that you love them unconditionally and communicate that, you know, I don't like what you did, but let me tell you, nothing can ever change the love that I have for you. I love you regardless of what they do, regardless of your mistakes. And, you know, let's be very generous in celebrating anything that they do well. Let's be generous in our praises of them because that just encourages them to do things better? Thank you.
Well, my Achilles heel is consistency, and I think once the kids have learned that, they have always taken advantage of my inconsistency, because I have things that I want to do. So sometimes it's very convenient for me not to be consistent, because consistent will take me out of my strength. So they get away with that for some time.
Yeah.
Well, switching gears, let's jump into the next part. This one deals with nutrition. We'll come back to the questions that have been posted into the chat, and it's okay if you can look into those questions, because I see some of them that are pretty good. I'll make sure I have about 5-10 minutes. We'll try and go very fast on this one too. The question that comes here is, what are some common nutritional gaps in early childhood, and how can families address them? And while addressing that, we can tell us how you think, how do balanced nutrition meals impact children cognitive and physical development? I'll invite Dr. Penina to open up this.
Well, that's quite a broad session and a broad topic.
That's why we had issues before you named.
But I'm gonna do like a sort of a broad overview of nutrition and just the impact in child cognition and development. So cognition, as you know, it's when a ability of a child to acquire knowledge, skill related to learning, memory, problem solving, language, reasoning. So like just growing normally. And with that cognition, there's brain development, and you want normal brain development. And nutrition, the brain is very vulnerable during early childhood, and therefore you need the nutrients, macronutrients, and food, necessary food to be able to grow and for the brain to grow. And so you need, there's protein, there's carbohydrates, there's fat, there's vitamins, there's minerals, specific minerals that you need for brain growth. All this starts from prenatal, when you're pregnant, to when the child is born, to early childhood and teenage life. The brain grows up to 21 years. Any of those times are very, very important for brain growth. And just to mention a few of very specific things, you've heard about omega-3 fatty acids, DHEA. Those are, you see them in milk, like when you buy milk, you see fortified milk, or it has DHEA, has vitamin D. Those are important. They're there for a reason, because it helps the brain grow. But prenatal, mothers need to have prenatal vitamins. They need to go for their checkup. As in the infant stage, if you're able to do breastfeeding, that has colostrum, and it has antibodies, it has the nutrients that the child will need at infancy. Early childhood, you're talking about, milk. It doesn't have to be cow's milk. It can be plant-based. You need vitamin D, calcium, iron. Those things are very important for cognition, for memory, for focus. DHEA is very important for brain growth and focus. And missing any of those to some extent will impact cognition and just normal development. And those are things that are easily available, they're easily consumable, and it's important to have them. Other things that I think we miss out on is nuts, just because people are afraid of allergy. People talk about peanut allergy or different kinds of nuts, and they just don't want to try them. And the easiest way to do that is just scoop a spoon, put it in the milk, mix it up, and give the child. You have to try different nuts and just see how the child does. And just briefly, things that just going through the gaps, vegetables, nuts, milk. That's one of the things that I think we need to emphasize on in a balanced diet. If you think about, a lot of kids don't like to eat green vegetables. They just don't. And you have to offer it every time. If you start it early, the kid will, you're all eating together, which is very, very important. Eating a meal together as a family. You have, you're eating the same food, you introduce it over and over, and slowly the child is able to eat it from an early age and just catch on that. Eating breakfast before school, very, very important. If you can, do not send the child to school without breakfast. One, they're going to be hungry, they will not focus, they won't do well. If there's any meal that you can have, breakfast is it. Avoid processed food. Plan your grocery shopping, plan what you're going to go to buy at the store with a list. And actually, if you go to the store with a list, you end up spending less because you have a list of what you're going to buy. Adequate maternal nutrition, like I've said, fiber in the diet, very, very important for your gut, for your bowels, just all-rounded healthy. Yeah, so some of the things that just overall to go through.
Thank you so much. I think that's very vital in terms of some of the things sometimes we underestimate as some of the roles that come into raising a family. It's fundamental from the beginning. I will jump into Tanuke, and feel free to jump and I don't want to, tie somebody into that particular question. You feel free to do your culture. If you feel there's a place that you can explain better with the previous one, feel free. But
Okay.
I come to you, Tanuke.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually wanted to mention some things that sometimes lead to the nutritional gaps to begin with. You have some children who are picky eaters. Oh, my daughter only likes Cheerios. Oh, they only like grapes. Well, if you're a picky eater and your child keeps eating the same types of food, they may lose nutrients that they need in other areas. And then healthy foods are expensive. Fruits and vegetables are great, but they're expensive. It's just easy to buy chips and all these kinds of things. So that's sometimes why our children have these nutritional gaps. But we have to realize that I'm not a doctor, but I think I've heard this a lot of times and read that the first 5 years are very, very important in the brain development of the child. And this is why we have a lot of problems in Africa, where sometimes children will actually grow up, they will never attain to the heights that they could have attained to. But it's not only physical, even the mental capacity that they could have. But because in those early stages, they were deprived of these kinds of food. So medical science itself is finding out that food is much more important than we think. Many illnesses have been reversed even due to food. So food is very important. And if we can start in early childhood, that would be good. So just a few examples. Vitamin D, I think, is one that many people are familiar with. The deficiency of that will affect bone development and immune function. And we can get that from fish, from fortified dairy, even from just going out in the sun and enjoying the outdoors. You can deal with that kind of deficiency. How about fiber? Fiber deficiency is huge because of a lot of processed foods and the foods that we eat. We don't get the fiber, and we can get those from whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts. Nuts are great. So I know, like Doctor said, many people are afraid of allergies, but you try it a little bit, and if you're not allergic to it, you can do that. So just some of those things. And then things that we should avoid. Sugar. We know that it causes children to be hyperactive. So you've given your children all these high sugar cereal, and then you send them to school and they're hyperactive. So we need to know the foods that also trigger our children. It's not good for them nutritionally, but it also allows them to exhibit some behaviors that we might actually be struggling with. So your child seems to be hyperactive, your child is running around and doing all of this, and it may just be the food that you are giving them that is causing them to do this. So we need to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well explained. Jolly, you want to jump into
For
this?
me, I'm gonna explain from my experience. To help our kids with nutrition, we have to start from the time you give birth to a child. And breastfeeding is very important. Breastfeeding, if you can breastfeed the baby to the age of 2, if you can. If you can't do it, you can go all the way to 18 months. At least 12 months.
Can somebody mute Peter?
Okay. At least 12 months is better. I know most of the people, they do it 6 months. But to me, with my experience and the weather that we have, 6 months is not enough. At least 12 months is better because in time of cold, kids get a lot of flu, they get cold, and they don't have appetite to eat. But when you are breastfeeding, it's better. They are getting everything that they're supposed to get. What you do is you eat everything that you know the child can eat. Like the doctor say, vegetables. You eat a lot of fruit. You eat a lot of you eat some meat. You eat nuts, and by trying all kind of nuts when you are breastfeeding, you will know what kind of allergy your child have. I will tell from my experience. I have 2 kids who have fresh peanuts allergy. If they eat fresh peanuts, they get allergy. And I find that out from breastfeeding myself. When I just give birth, I eat a lot of fresh peanuts to get more milk. And when I eat, I feed the baby, they get sore, all their tongue gets sore. And when we went to hospital, they find out they are allergic to fresh peanut. But if I get dry peanuts, I ground them, I put in cassava leaves, I eat, I breastfeed, nothing happened. So from breastfeeding to the age of 1 day to 1 year, you will find out a lot of things that your kids should eat or they should not eat. So it's very important to breastfeed the baby. To me, I feel even breastfeeding is better than buying milk and giving to the baby. And I know the situation that we are in, going to work and coming back is not easy, but we have to try. And fish, eating a lot of fish, and at the same time, sleeping, kids going to sleep on time
Yeah.
because they going to sleep on time, it helped them regain more strength from the way they were playing. You know how kids goes around. You think maybe they just gonna break themselves. But when they sleep on time, they get at least 10 hours of sleep, 9 hours of sleep, 11 hours of sleep, even 12 hours sleep is okay so that they can regain their strength. And staying outside like summertime, them playing outside, getting that sun is very, very important. Microwave food, it's not that good. I know we do it, but it's not good. And sometimes we send the kids to school with the snacks. We go buy chips and all that. No, it's very simple. Buy fruit every day. You give them 1 fruit or 2 fruit. It's better than that box of chips. So, and we usually, like us African, we eat dry fish. We eat dry fish, we eat dry meat. All that is very, very important. Home meal is better than going and microwaving food. A lot of time we do it fast, fast. I'm busy, I have to go to work, this and that. Just put something in the microwave. It's not okay for the kids. It's better for us to cook. At least you save it for the next day. You cook a lot of food today, you put in the fridge, and then the next day they can microwave or they can just boil it. It's better than just eating whatever was already processed and then we put in microwave. So that's all I can say for the
Thank you.
nutrition.
I
Thank
think
you.
you've decided to talk about me. A lot of stuff you're talking is what I do, but that's okay. I think when it comes to breastfeeding, both like the panelists have told us, both parents have to be in the same accord. Dad and mom have to agree on when to stop. So mothers cannot just decide to go for 2 years and we wanted a year. So I think it's good for people to be on the same page. I think that's also important I think Penina and everybody panelists to say here that it's important for both parents to be on the same page. So I think that one is also important for us to be on the same page. Well, jumping on to the next question. Cultural and identity sense. We will do this for about 5, I'll give you each 2 minutes, then we can now answer a few questions that most people might have. And I want you to just pick a question there and address one from our cultural and identity sense belonging from the questions that they gave us. And I will go ahead and start off with Tinuke, cultural and identity sense question.
Oh, okay. So our children obviously now are living in a culture that is different from their original culture. But what I want us to know is that the roots, there's nothing we can do about our roots. So your child was born in the United States and your child has always lived in the United States. Somewhere in that child is still the culture that the parents came from. They can never totally isolate themselves. At some point or the other, it will show up. So the best thing is for us to make sure that we allow our children to get involved and know about their identity, not just that they're Americans. We cannot run away from it. And when you allow your child to really embrace their culture, it gives them a lot of self-confidence and pride. And especially when you can help them to reflect it even where they are. It helps them to be confident in who they are and to even be able to relate to other people. And so I just wanted to talk about the specific ways, what can we do? So even in our homes, we need to continue to build the culture. Language, for instance, many of us have lost that. Our children cannot speak our language, and there's really no excuse for it. It's probably ignorance on our part. If I knew then what I know now, all my children would be speaking our language. They do understand, and some of them try, but they are not as fluent as they could be. And it is possible. I think science has shown that even children can learn up to 5 languages before the age of 5 and be totally okay. And it actually helps them, being bilingual or more than that actually helps their brain to be able to conceptualize some things more than people who have only one language. So it's an advantage. And, I can't go into how we do that, but as a principle, let's know that we need to preserve the language. We need to preserve our culture. Things that are positive in our culture, let's teach our children so that they know it. Let's not be ashamed of our culture. Let's teach our children the names, even the names. Like I said, you cannot take the culture away from them even if you try. So it's better to just allow them, let them have their names, let them be confident and comfortable in their identity. And also expose them to other people like them. Many times our children are isolated here. We are only thinking about our profession. So I got a job in Iowa. I got a job somewhere in the loonies where our children cannot even see any other Black person, let alone a cultural person. Those decisions are very important. What's going to happen to your child? How are they going to be able to connect? When your child goes out there and sees other people like them, other people that behave like them, they are happy. I'll give you one example and I'll stop. So we started attending a camp meeting every year of Nigerian Christian groups. So all Nigerians will be there. And so our children started, talking to one another and finding out, oh my goodness, oh, so your dad does that too. Oh, so your mom does that. All these, why didn't you get 100%? If you got a 98, where did the other 2 go? Things like, maybe you finish a bowl of ice cream, and instead of throwing it away, you actually recycle and you started putting something else in it. They started comparing experiences, and the children felt so happy that I'm not strange. My parents are not strange. There are actually people like me. And it changed for my children. It changed their mindset forever. They just found that connection. But some people who deprive their children, your children are not around other cultural people. It's just, you think you're just in the US and your children just have to have friends who are Americans or white or something. I can assure you, you are depriving your child, because at some point, those other people are going to leave them, and then they're going to be thinking, who exactly are they? So instill your culture in your children. I cannot overemphasize that. Thank you.
That recycle thing drives everybody in our house crazy, even me. Dr. Penina, you're next.
Definitely, cultural identity is very important. It grounds a child. They know where they belong in this world. And in as much as they're in the US, a different environment from where we grew up, but they know that they're Africans. I'm from Kenya. My kids know that they're Kenyan American. So it's very important for them to understand that part. And it gives them just a sense of pride that I'm a Kenyan, speak Swahili or eat chapati, things that are very specific and very uplifting for being a Kenyan. It's important, and when you compare with, which is unfortunate, but sometimes comparing with you've heard of people who are trying to find their roots. They're trying to go to Africa to find their roots. It's because there's something that they're lacking. But we have the opportunity, because we know what our roots are, where we've come from. And therefore we have to introduce those cultural beliefs and cultural identity to our kids. Even just playing the songs, African songs in the car, in the house, cooking African food, Kenyan food, Nigerian, Ghanaian, whatever food, that in itself shows and creates identity for this child. And something like now, because of there's a lot of you can connect with people outside the country. Call cousins, call nieces, grandparents. Talk. Let them hear from the other part of the world. Let them hear a different language, and if they are able to speak the same language, is even better. They can communicate. And there's one thing someone said. Interacting with grandparents, it gives children a very different perspective in life, and it gives wisdom, instills respect for their parents. It's very important to get that part of grandparents into the picture of the children. The grandparents, sometimes even though they're not able to necessarily talk and understand each other, but just the fact that they're able to actually see them and see where they have originated, see their roots, it's very, very grounding.
Thank you. Jolly, you're next.
Yes. When it comes to showing our children their identity and where they come from and who they are, we have to start introducing them to their identity from their childhood. Like when the child starts eating, what kind of food do you give to your child? You have to introduce your child from the beginning, the food of their identity, African food. And when they're at the age of, you can go with them to the store, you show them that let's go to the store. Let me show you what kind of food we eat, what kind of things we have. You show them. And if you have access to getting things from Africa, you send them, you show them this is the things we use back home and we use it here, especially with the food. A lot of kids, but from eating food, they already know who we are because they go out there, they find the food they eat at school and the food they're eating home is different. Some of the kids, they will even love to take their food to school as lunch. They do that. And communication with the people that are back home. We have to make sure that we are in communication. And if it's possible, you have access to go back home and come back. Introduce the kids to taking them home, knowing where they come from, knowing who they are, all those kind of things. And the dressing is very important for the kids to know what kind of dress we wear. At the same time,
Somebody please mute Peter. Peter, please, somebody mute Peter for me. Peter, Peter.
at the same time, let's say like party, there's a party, there's African party, wedding, or there's a birthday, there's a graduation. Those are the kind of place to take the kids to interact with the other kids, to know, oh, there's other kids like us, there's, oh, those, so this is kind of things we do back home, those kind of things. And language is very, very important. Very important. I will give example uh, of my own. I have my firstborn. He was born in Africa. He came here as he was only 1 year and 6 months. He didn't want to speak our native language. No, 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 no. When you try to speak native language, he speak English. And we end up telling him, okay, if you want to speak only English, we don't know English. We don't know English. So when he says something, we all get quiet. And then he get tired. It's like, okay, 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 okay. So what do I say? He end up losing even a little bit of small language he had. Now we start teaching him from the beginning. Okay, if you want to say this in English, in Swahili is this. In our native language, Kibembe is this. And he did learn. But the rest of the kids, all 8 kids, they speak our native language, they speak Swahili, they speak English. So you can speak, even if you come in my house, you are speaking. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you say, because if you are trying to say something that is not okay, they can hear. They can hear everything that you are saying. So teaching our kids language and showing them that I know you were born here. This is where we were born. You are American, you are US citizen, but your bloodline, it comes from this place. And you have to know what kind of place it is. And we have to communicate with the people there, even sending the picture of the place, houses, all those kind of things, showing them so that they know who we are. Yes, we were born in USA, we were born in Canada, but we are African. And they will be proud. They will always be proud. In school, they have culture day. When they have culture day in school, you have to be in support of that. You have to be in support of that, showing them, okay, this is where we come from. These are the things we do. These are the things we have. These are the worth of our country. Things like that. Because
Thank
when they're explaining that, people will even surprised. Were these kids born here? Yes, but who did that? The parents. I know some people, they don't even want to give the kids our food. They'll be like, no, since my kids come to US, they don't like African food. That's not true. That's not true. The kids came from Africa. They eat African food. How can they not like African food because they are here? It's because we don't keep that in mind and knowing that what should we do? And all that comes from how important you see you are, how important you see your country is, how important you see where you come from and the people that you are related with. Some people, they don't even want to be related to the African people anymore. Oh, these people, they're like this. No, We have to be like that. We have to come together. No matter how bad we are, how good we are, that's who we are. We cannot change that. So we have to come together and we have to take our kids through that process, little by little, and they will feel comfortable and be proud of themselves.
Thank you so much. I think we'll now jump into another session. I mean, we've let our, I mean, I'm one of those, and I think Tanuki alluded into that in terms of not being in a position where we have taught our children their language. Culture is the widening of the mind and the spirit. And if we want a culture to continue, then we have to continue creating it. And I appreciate this because this is coming from knowledge of experience, from reading, from most of the places that our panelists have been exposed to. We truly appreciate that you are expose into this, enlightening us into this area. We'll jump into questions from our members. There was one question that I feel that everybody can get a chance to jump into, and I think it was about punishment. How do you punish ADHD children? How do you deal with ADHD children in terms of punishment? And we can do 1 minute each. I plan to stop at 7:20. That's in the next 20 minutes, for 5 minutes. And now, before I give you guys each a parting shot for the night, if you can address that with, a minute or so, how do you punish ADHD children? Starting with Tenuke, and then Jolie, and then closing with Dr. Penina.
I thought the doctor would start, but I think what we need, what we need to know is that once our children have been diagnosed with ADHD, we need to work with the doctor. We need to work with the pediatrician. And if we have therapists, we need to work with them. So I would say, as a general matter, even when you have two different children, even if none of them has ADHD, what works for one child may actually not work for the other. And that goes back to understanding your own child. So you don't use one size fits all. When you now have a child who is ADHD, that's even on another level. So for you to even attempt to discipline a child with ADHD, you have to educate yourself with the condition of your child. There might be things that you think the child is doing that is wrong, and it may be because it may be a symptom of ADHD, and they may just need your help to work with it. So if you're a parent here today and you have a child with ADHD, how much understanding do you have of this condition? Work with your pediatrician, work with the therapist, tell them what the child is doing and how you can support the child, because there might be some things that you think are behavioral issues, which may just be that it's because the child is ADHD and this is what you can do. You might need to provide different environments for them. If you have an ADHD, who wouldn't sit down to do homework instead of just beating them and just getting upset? If they have ADHD, they probably need to get up from time to time, and you probably need to allow them to leave their homework, stretch out, go do something, and come back to it. That may not be normal for other children, but that may be just what they need. So I'll just say, understand exactly the condition, understand the symptoms, so that when they arise, you know how to deal with them and work with your pediatrician and therapist. Thank you.
Beautiful. Jolie.
For me, I know it's a very difficult situation, but in that situation, there's two ways that people can always use when you have kids like that. First, you have to work with the doctors to guide you through what you can do as a physical. And second, from my experience and my understanding, you have to pray a lot for God to give you enough strength, to give you patience, and to give you enough strength to be calm. Because anytime they want to stand up, move, and do whatever they want to do, you have to be patient with them. You have to be calm. And with the kids like that, punishment is not always a solution. No, it's not always a solution. You have to work with them. You have to work with them. There will be a time they will understand you. There will be a time they will not understand you. But you should always be in a situation of understanding them and finding a way to deal with the situation. So it's both way, working with the doctor and be a person of prayer, to ask God every single day to give you enough strength and enough knowledge to deal with the situation like that. That's all I can say.
Thank you so much. That's quite painful. Uh, Dr. Penina.
So ADHD is really a spectrum, and it ranges from, attention for a minute or so to where the child is able to actually sit for 20, 30 minutes. And like a lot of, the other panelists have said, it's important to work with a therapist, a pediatrician. Therapists will help you know what works for the child. What will work today may not work tomorrow. Patience is very, very important. If you have a child who only has attention for 5 minutes, that's all you have. You sit down with the child for 5 minutes. If you're doing some task, you do that. When they get up, you don't get frustrated because that's all they have. And you have to, in a calm way, try to redirect them to whatever they were doing. They may decide to take a walk for 10 minutes, but as they go to walk, go walk with them and talk about something, and then come back to whatever task you are doing. And that's something that will have to repeat itself over. You will try today, it works. Tomorrow, it doesn't work. You have to re-strategize. And it calls for a lot of patience. As the kids go through teenage life, every stage of their growth, it's different experience. And therefore, it's important to have that communication with the therapist and with the pediatrician. Some end up on medications, but it's important to have a discussion and clear discussion with the therapist on how to maneuver some of the things. And I want to talk about just diet and ADHD. And if you just generally out of experience, if it just people don't have ADHD, processed food and high sugar content food makes kids hyperactive, just normal. Now, think about that with a kid who has ADHD. It just triples to just the way they behave. And it's important to eliminate some of those things, processed food, high sugar content in their diet. You want a balanced diet and less sugar in their system. That helps control some of the behaviors to a point where you can have sort of a more muted response, a more muted tantrum. There are a lot of other treatment options that are there in terms of just trying to get them to a point where they can stay, they can get to a normal level as much as possible. And again, I don't want to necessarily think about punishing a child with ADHD. I don't think it exists because it just gets out of control very quickly and you don't achieve what you're trying to get. It's more of trying to see how to redirect them back to what they were doing or do something more constructive than actually punishing them.
Thank you very much. That was truly in-depth analysis of a lot of many questions that we had with a very short time. But I really just admire the knowledge of our panelists in terms of being able to put this together and be able to send us sneak peeks or pits that will be able to give us some knowledge or ideas on how we are supposed to walk through this journey of parenthood. Now I'm opening this to everybody else who is here. Thank you so much for your patience and for your listening. I'll open this to you. You can direct it directly to one of the panelists, or you can remain general in terms of a question. Feel free. I'll open this for about 5-10 minutes of interaction, and then I'll ask the panelists to get ready with a parting shot, something that we didn't ask you you'd like to say, or something that you would like to finish up your conversation with. I'll give you 2 minutes about yourself, a parting shot before we call it a night. So this is now open. You can either raise up your hand or just go ahead and unmute yourself and shoot your question to the panelists that you intended to answer your question. You can also type the question if you don't want anybody to, if you don't want to talk, feel free. It's your time now. Your time is now, or forever hold your breath. Anybody with a question?
I have a comment, Sebastian.
Awesome. Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Now I see it.
Okay.
How are you?
Oh, good.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good. So first thing that I want to do is to thank the panelists. I think this was very good. I really liked it, and the feedback was very good. Thank you so much. I mean, I might be not really question, but I was thinking about some kind of way forward. You know, we have kind of a session like this, but also at the same time, are there kind of way to organize? Because, you know, we are from Africa. One thing that I've realized that the way we were brought up, especially the first, we as who came first here, like immigrants, kind of slightly different because, you know, like my dad used to just say one thing, you know, it was yes or no, you know, and yeah, the kind of, there's also the school and everything, you know, kind of, the dialogue is different. It is to and fro, but I'm kind of used to take this yes or no, like kind of military style. And, you know, I don't want to repeat things. Sometimes I get annoyed and the kids not see that way.
You and
So,
I.
so, and actually, I also that complicates me. And of course, we of course some things we talk as if they will happen, it will be fine. But at the same time, you can be nice, but does not necessarily mean that they will listen to you what you have said. But I was wondering whether we there's a way that with the time people have support groups that they can able to talk and share, and also the kids also have their own pressure, especially from other side. You know, this is that they are multicultural societies, and they tend to copy from other people, and they say that no, this is what be done, this is not legal, and I think also Pina talked about the timeout. Sometimes I kind of like timeout, but at the same time, sometimes I feel like it's not working because I don't have time to wait for another 30 minutes. Kids just keep me quiet.
And
So,
you're
but
timed out too. When you're timing them out, you're timing yourself out.
yeah. So, but what way that as a community that we have a kind of support groups or some, we kind of share and, someone to go and, share our ideas and so forth. Thank
It's a
you.
decent observation, and
Yeah.
if anybody has that, I think it's an observation he's throwing in there, which is I think it's very important in terms of having such forums where, and I think one of the speakers was alluding to that, where sometimes when you get to people who have kind of the same issues that you have, it becomes sometimes a little bit easier to navigate. So in the course of this, if there's anybody thinks of a better idea where we can have those forums, that's definitely going to be appreciated.
Can I say something,
Okay.
please?
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to add something on what he said about timeout. I know there's age that you can tell the baby timeout, and there's age you just have to give that little bit of, you have to hold on, because when you are angry and the child is angry, sometimes you end up doing things that you will regret later. So it's better to give that 30 minutes away, and then you go back and sit the child down you already calm down and the child already calm down, sometimes it works. It works. You can understand each other. And when you are talking, the child is already looking at you and listening to what you are saying. And you are able to look at the child and listen to what they are saying. So sometimes it's very important to do that.
Jolly, let me ask you a question. You have how
Yes.
many kids again? You have
9.
9. So was it
Yes.
easier when they were few, or did it get easier as you had more, given maybe some will help you do that? Or is it the same from the very first time you had 2 and when you had 8 or 9? When was it easier when there were many?
What I can tell you when it comes to
Doesn't mean I'll get any more, but
if to be honest, it's get difficult with the age.
okay.
That's what I can tell you. It gets difficult no matter how many kids you have. When it comes to housework, yes, it's very difficult. The housework get more. But when it comes to parenting, age, oh my God, help me. Age is the issue. Because the way you talk with the 5 years old is not the same way you will talk with 10 years old. Is not the same way you will talk with a 16 years old or 18 years old, 20 years old. It's crazy. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not about having a lot of kids. It's about the age.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think, Sebastian, I'll jump in and say this. I think we all agree that parenting has helped us realize that we need patience. That's one of the things that has taught me how to be patient, which helps in just communicating with the children in a more calm and respectful and less shouting. As you know, they change from being toddlers to, my kids are not yet teenagers, but as they get to that point, you know, the things that they will repeatedly do, try to push, step on your toes,
Mhm.
and sometimes you just, you know, you lose it, right?
Yes.
And when that happens, there's no effective communication between you and the child. It's not helpful. And just taking a 5-minute break, walk to the kitchen, get a drink or water or something, just to recollect yourself and calm down, to be able to actually have a discussion with the child and explain what is the issue and go through what needs to happen, what needs to change. Very, very helpful. And another thing that I wanted to talk about, exposing our kids to different other families and other kids that look like them. In St. Louis, right? We have lots of African immigrants. You know, find your circle, find a group of friends who have kids probably the same age or thereabouts, and get together, have dinner, you know, go to the park, get together. It's very helpful. A lot of times in school, they're the minority, you know, in class, maybe 1 or 2 kids from, you know, African descent. But getting the kids together where they feel like they're the majority, they, you know, they meet people who are like them, who have the same cultural practices, same beliefs. You know, they would probably talk the same language. Very important to actually have that connection. And it helps them realize, oh, you know, after all, there are other people who are like me, and you know, this is my tribe. These are my people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for chipping in on that one. Anybody else with a question, either to the panelist or a general question that we can help answer?
2 people have their hands raised. I saw Stella, and then I saw someone else. So.
Okay, Stella, go ahead. Who was? I don't know who the other one was.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Sylvie, for inviting me in this beautiful forum. I'm a parent of 16-year-old, and I have two questions that I would like to ask. Maybe it could have discussed earlier because I came a little bit late. My first question is, how can parents strike a balance between granting independence and providing necessary guidance to their teenagers? And my second question is, how should a parent set boundaries while also allowing their teens to explore their identities and interests? I don't know if
I can take that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you're basically talking about the challenging life of raising teenagers. And it doesn't have to be as bad as people talk about it. I think we need some understanding. We need to know that at least we need to check their developmental growth. What is happening with a teenager at this time? They are in between being a child and being an adult. So that's a dicey place to be. Am I an adult? Am I a child? So we as parents need to recognize what is happening in that developmental age. They are the age where they are now exerting their independence, and it is a good thing. If you have a 16-year-old who is not independent, who cannot make their own decisions, and you want to send them off to college, what are they going to say when their friends say they want to go and do drugs, they want to go and do? So you don't want to quench that independence. You don't want to break it. So the thing with teenagers is that you need to be ready to get on their level. At this age, it's very, very important to connect with them, to give them room, to hear them out, to be able to listen to them, to validate their feelings, just to give them room, not to come on this, I'm the dad and I'm going to tell you what to do and all of that. They're going to rebel because naturally God has placed it in them that they are now getting ready to be adults. And because they're getting ready to be adult, they need to develop those skills of. Can you imagine sending someone to college and they don't know how to make a decision on anything? They can't decide on their own. They can't do anything. You don't want that. That is being developed in your home, and that's definitely going to cause clashes because someone is trying to become an adult and someone is already an adult. But it is not difficult. If you have their back, if you invite them to conversations, if you talk to them, if they see that you respect them, if you validate their feelings, I hear you. I see that you're upset. Let's talk about it. If we do all of that. And then when you are creating rules for teenagers, sit together to do it. Now you started driving. Let's talk about the rules. You have this weapon in your hands that can take lives. What should we do? So no speeding. You create the rules together, and then you create the consequences together. You see, when they are involved, we say they want to become adults. When they are involved, they feel valued. They feel like you recognize them, and so they cooperate with you. So if I ask you to come home at 9 and you don't come till 10, what should we do? What do you think? You create those rules together, so they will already shoot themselves in the mouth. And if they are being ridiculous and coming up with things that are too lenient, you say you know that you're not being serious. If you do that, you can. So create the rules together, and when they break the rules, be bold in following through with whatever it is. If it's about the phone, if it's about the misuse of the phone, and you say, if you do this, your phone is going to be taken for 24 hours. Don't now be afraid to take the phone for 24 hours. You must follow through. Once you start not following through, you've lost your hold on discipline. You've lost that. So even though it hurts you, they're not going to die because they don't have their phone for 24 hours. They're not going to die. So keep to what you have done. I think when we start doing that and we really do connect with them on an emotional level and they begin to trust us, it will be easy. You know how teenagers love their coaches at school? Coaches are loved people. Like they love their coaches.
Peter, please mute yourself. Peter, please mute yourself.
Because these coaches, when you watch them, they give them these motivational talks. They tell them they believe in them and all of this, when they're doing the sports. many young people have coaches as their mentors, because these are people who believe in them and let them know it. Now, we as parents, we have the opportunity every day to be mentors to our children, to be coaches, to be people who cheer them on, who they trust. And when they do that, when they trust you, when they respect you, they also respect your rules. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Penny, go ahead.
One thing I want to add quickly, I think we have to be present as parents. And this does not start at teenage life, but it also starts, way when they're little. And you create that communication, open channel of communication. Yes, you hear them, your friends, but you also have to guide them respectfully, have set boundaries, and actually keep those boundaries. Very helpful when they get to teenage life and there is independence. Those channel of communications, if you were not present when they were little and you come in at teenage life and try to direct this teenager who also wants independence, then it doesn't work that way. But once you've been together and they're able to come to you and happily have a discussion, even at early age, a teenage life, even as they go and evolve as adults, they'll be able to have a discussion with you, and you'll be able to talk with them through whatever is going on. So that's very helpful.
Thank you. Anything to add, Jolie? After that,
Yes.
you can ask your question.
Yes. What I'm gonna add is when we have teenagers, we have to be in communication with our parents too, to ask about how we grow up in our teenager time. How did we behave? It's very important to know that too. How did we behave when we were teenager, and how did our parents deal with us at that age? Because there are some things that our kids do that we did it too. And there are some things that our parents had to deal with. We have to find out too, Mom, Dad, how did you deal with me in this situation? And if you didn't do the things that your teenager is doing, then you have to sit down with the teenager and find out what they're feeling and what they are going through and what they want. There's always time for us to give them a small space for you to figure out exactly what is going on. And like the way they say before, to put that boundaries, we have to stick on our rules. As long as it's not illegal, as long as it's not something that can hurt them, but something that can help them, yes, stick to that. If you say you are only staying in your room, you are not getting out of your room, we have to be in communication. We have, okay, let's make this rule. You can go in your room at this time, but we have to do this and that. Then stick to that. But most important is we have to know what they want and what they are going through. Because if we don't have that time with our kids at their teenager time, they go out. They go out and find help out. I'll put example. Your teenager is already having boyfriend or girlfriends. If you have open communication with the girl and you are the mother, the girl always come to the mother. Mom, this is how I'm feeling. You have to know what kind of conversation you should have with your child at that time, because you already know now they want to know more than they should. But it's that time, because if they already have that feelings, they're already into that situation or in that process. You have to be there for them. Don't wait for them to go and ask their friend. Don't wait for them to go and ask other parents because you don't know what they will tell them. But for you as a mother, for you as a father, if he's a boy, they always go to the father. And some boys, if they have good relationship with their mom, they go to their mom too. You have to know how to handle your teenager at that situation. If he come to you and say, Mom, I already have a girlfriend, the first thing you should do not to panic. The moment you panic, that trust is already trying to go away. So you have to sit down with him or her. Okay, now you have a boyfriend, now you have a girlfriend, or I have somebody that I like, or I have somebody that like me. You have that open conversation and then you guide them through. The first thing you shouldn't do is say, no, you are not old enough for you to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Now you have gone to stop that conversation because no matter what you will say, that already stuck in their mind. But if you sit down with them and listen to what they are saying, okay, somebody like you, okay, what do you think? What is on your mind? Tell me so that I can know how to guide you. Because if you panic and you start shouting, they will go and do it without telling you. And then even if they break up, she's crying, he's crying, now they don't know where to go. They have to go to their friends or to other parents. And it's not good. It's
Thank you.
not okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Pesh Mbogwa, I know you have a question. Go ahead. And as we answer this question, I'd also ask the panelists to take this opportunity to, as you answer the question, also have your final parting shot. Because I know I intended to stop at 7:20, but there was a lot of good stuff coming up that I felt it was unfair for me to not let people get that material. So let's get this final question. And then as the panelists answer that question, you can also give us your final parting shot.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. And thank you all, our panelists. This was amazing. I think my question, I want to direct it to Dr. Penina. I know you said you have talked, I think you have repeated this several times about being calm, maybe when we're dealing with our kids. And to be very honest, I don't know, maybe it's just me or it's a lot of us, especially let's say in the morning, right? Like it can get very chaotic to, or maybe almost every parent when we're getting kids ready to school or for school. So you really do find yourself, or I find myself raising my voice, right? Maybe even when not totally necessary. So are there any strategic or practical strategies that you can or maybe recommend what makes you just keep calm? Because really, even when you try to just get everything ready for them, like you have the uniform ready, you have everything ready, breakfast is ready even before, you still get yourself yelling just to get them out of the house or out there the door. Are there any practical strategies that you recommend? I don't know.
So,
Yell more.
There's a lot of yelling in the morning, especially.
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I'm a perfectionist in this. I have yelled a few times. One of the things that I would say helps me, I don't like last minute things. It doesn't just work for me. One of the things that we do, we sort of have a routine. I have two boys, and one is in fifth grade and the other one is in first grade. So we have a routine. The fifth grade is out of the house before 7 o'clock. And so they have an advantage where I have one child at a time. But before bed, we make sure that we have the schoolwork, the school bag is ready, the homework is already done and packed. You know what you're carrying for school tomorrow for lunch. Your water bottle is ready and what you're going to have for breakfast. And the routine in our house, just because routine works for us and I want to keep it that way. wake up in the morning, and this has been over a lot of years of work. Wake up in the morning, make your bed, change to your school clothes, go to the kitchen and have breakfast. That follows in that order. As you have breakfast, I am not me all the time, but my husband will be preparing the lunch. Get your water bottle and out the door. So that it's about 20 minutes or so from when you leave your room to when you're leaving the house. And the next boy wakes up 7 o'clock, 7:15, and we go through that routine. I wouldn't say that he's mastered that, but a few times I'm like, hey, we need to do ABCD, and you have to repeat it again. And when you're repeating it the third time, you're like, you're not as calm as when you stayed it the first time. It's natural, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, sometimes you walk to the kitchen or to the sink and wash something and turn around and say, okay, so we have 5 minutes before we leave the house. So you need to get your water and you need to finish your breakfast. So those things need to happen within 5 minutes. And exactly at that time, you leave the house. There may be times that we want to say something or naturally just, we just raise our voice because it's the fifth time that we've said the same thing and nothing really has changed. But it doesn't help. One, the kid gets frustrated, you get frustrated. All around, it doesn't help. Nothing really has changed. You haven't moved from where you were, or maybe the kid will start crying. So now it becomes a crisis in the morning. But a routine for us, I would say, has worked in just getting those tantrums and shouting in the morning. I'm not going to say it's 100%, but definitely has helped.
Thank you.
you.
And your parting shot, or you want to make that your parting shot?
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be a parting shot, but one thing that I consistently think about is being present with the kids, not just physically, but actually being part of what's going on with the kids. When you come home, put the phone down and actually talk to them. How is school? How is the day? What's going on? And actually listen to them. For me, I think that's something that I'm still working on, and it's fresh in my mind every day to be present with the kids.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, your time, and your contribution to this meeting today. It was of great help, not just to us, because some of us will also share this information with other people, and that's how we end up changing the whole society, community in general. So, Jolly, it's you, your parting shot.
I'm going to say two things because there's something that the first person asked about the teenager, and I think it's very important if I address this. Our teenager, they are getting involved with the friends who us as a parent, we are not comfortable with, no matter if they are in a good way or in a bad way. So when you are dealing with a teenager who have friends and you are not comfortable about the friends, there's always something telling you that this child who is friend with my child, I don't think if it is a good child. There's always that feelings that you feel. And when you are in that situation, you have to sit your teenager down and show them the example and the meaning of why you want them to cut relationship with that friends. You don't just tell them, I don't want you to be friend with that kid. I don't want that kid to come to my house. I don't want you to be involved with that kid. You have to come and find out exactly if what you are feeling is a good feelings or is just something that will get you and your child like in a fight, because there's always that situation. Sometimes you stop the kids not to be friends with other kids, and they are not bad kids as you think. But if you find out exactly what kind of kids they are, then you sit them down, you show them, and you make them understand why you are doing what you are doing. So when it comes to waking up in the morning, the shouting and all that, it depends with the age of the kid sometimes. It depends with the age of the kids. If you have 2 to 3 kids and there's always one kid who is responsible. There's always one kid who is responsible, is able to wake up on their own, is able to do things on their own. Sometimes for you to avoid the shouting in the morning, walk with that kids. Walk with that kids. Can you wake your siblings? Can you help them? If you, let's say you drop them to school or you take them to the bus stop, you work with that child that is at least responsible and help you to get the other siblings ready, just for you to be in a calm mind and not to look like mom always shout in the morning. Mom always shout in the morning. Sometimes it work like that, working with your kids. But if they are in a little age, a very little age that they can't do things on their own, you just have to do things ahead of time. Always do the things ahead of time. Sometimes even if you do things ahead of time, when it comes to waking up, there's always one who want to wake up with the one voice and get ready, and there's always one who want to go back. Mom, 2 more minutes. And then that's when the shouting comes. But if you do things ahead of time, it will not make you in a situation where you are frustrated and shouting like crazy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tanuke.
Yes, so I just want to throw a challenge to us as a people that we don't need to always think that we can do it alone. I want to let you know that this work of parenting, your job is more of an uphill battle than the next co-worker that you go to work together, because that co-worker who is American is raising a child. This parent was raised in a particular culture. The child is growing up in the same culture. They are in alignment. But many times we are not in alignment with our children because we were raised this way. And then we are in another culture and we have to raise them in another way. So it's an uphill battle. But there is hope and there is help, and we need to use what we have. So I'll give the example of what we do with our health. We do regular checkups, we do annual checkups, not because we are sick, but because we want to make sure that we continue to be well. And if you're someone who doesn't do annual checkups and you are dealing with high blood pressure, maybe you haven't gone to the doctor in 5 years, the 5th year you go, you don't even go, you just have a stroke. And then blood pressure is 200 over 100 and something. And it has actually been like that for years, but because you did nothing, this is where we are. The same thing with our cars, our vehicles. The government actually regulates you must have insurance on your car. And many people, you do maintenance on their car. If you don't do maintenance of your car, you also know what happens. All of a sudden, something is going to break. The same thing with our parenting. We don't have all the knowledge. Let's seek support. Somebody asked the question about support group. Parenting support group is critical. We have a support group, and I'll put the link here, where parents of teens, we call it parents of teens and twins inner circle. So parents of teens and twins come together every week. We just had a session today. And people talk about things, they bring these issues. What do you think? We're all in different places, different spaces, different experiences, different strengths that we can bring to the table. Some of the things that we hear from our fellow parents is like, wow, it's like having a bunch of experts just talking all the time. I will encourage that you tap into such groups. Our group is a subscription. It's not free, but it's like subscribing to Amazon or to Netflix. It's very cheap, but we still want you to have a stake in the matter. And this should be important to us, even as African parents. We should know that parenting is a job, is a skill to be learned, is something to do well. It's not something to wing. Let's just see how it goes. You cannot afford it. If your parenting is on the wing, well, we just go with the flow. If you are not intentional about your parenting, you'll be shocked the kind of parents the kind of children you raise over time. However, if you do your job, if you're intentional, if you do it as you will, even in this country, you will raise children who are responsible. So wherever we are, I'll advise, so let's come together. This thing that we are doing now, let it not be once in a year. Let's come together. Let's have support groups. Let's talk together, and let's just help ourselves on this journey. Let's not do it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was wonderful. Plethora of knowledge from very experienced people, either from going through the process, either from learning it from school or just being in part of areas that have made you have such knowledge. And I can tell you that the people who are able to attend this and from the feedbacks we've received, this is going to be helpful to us and other members. And I'm just like that you have elaborated on a lot of things. A lot of us thinks it's the African in ourselves. It has nothing to do with that. It is never domiciled to yourself because you're an African. So there's some stuff like an African you have to stop doing. It's a work in progress that we have to keep working every day until the Lord calls us home. So thank you, everybody. I want to invite Elizabeth to make some few announcements. Sorry that we kept you a little longer than we anticipated, but this was simply because your questions kept coming and we felt that every next question that is coming had more weight and we needed to make sure that everybody gets the answers that they anticipate. So thank you. God bless you. Have a good night. We'll see you next time we have a meeting. But in the meantime, I invite Elizabeth to make the announcements that we have from Vitendo for Africa.
Sebastian, I put in the links. You can ask anyone to look. Anybody who wants to take a look at it can take a look at it.
Yes, please. There's that link right there. And please share it also. Share that also with friends. Elizabeth.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the meeting today. It was a great meeting. I learned a lot. And I hope everyone who's here, all the parents have also learned a lot to how to take care of their children. So I'll be sharing some of the upcoming events that we have from Vitendo. So I'll be sharing my screen. So the first one we have is the art therapy class. We were supposed to start last week, but due to the weather, we still haven't started. So hopefully we'll try starting tomorrow. So we have art therapy from 5 to 6 every Thursday at the Vitendo for Africa office. This one is mainly for the elementary students, even the younger students. And then we also have a new program called the dental program. The dental program is for middle schoolers and high schoolers, and it's going to be starting on March 7th. That one is going to be running for 4 weeks. So please, if you haven't signed up, please sign up your kids. That one, we only have 15 spots for now. So please, before it fills out, please sign them up. The next one that we have is the father and son game night. So that one is also going to be on March 7th at Christ Covenant Church at 6 p.m. So fathers, please encourage your children to come with you. So it's a father and son bonding time. So please encourage even your friends to be present for that. We also have the adult mental health first aid class on Wednesday, March 8th from 10 to 3 p.m. at the Vitendo for Africa office. Also, that one, we've been sharing the link. If you haven't taken any of our mental health classes, please, you can sign up so that you can also learn how to take care of yourself mentally and also how to proceed when taking care of your children. And then for our future events, our main events that are coming up, the next one is the graduation party for the class of 2025. It's going to be on June 20th, 5 to 8. So we'll be sharing the flyer and the registration is $30. So please, if you have a graduate who's almost graduating, please join us. Even if you have younger kids, please come and celebrate all our graduates. And then another main event that we have on August 1st is the Women Empowerment. So please, ladies, please sign up for that. It's gonna be from 6 to 10, August 1st. And then our main event is the Return for Africa Gala. So please save the date for the next gala. It's gonna be on November 1st. Thank you so much. And please, if you want us to share any of the links, we're gonna be sharing them in our social medias and also all our groups. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you in our next event. And thank you for being patient with us, especially in having gone above the time. God bless you.
Thank you for having us. Thanks for all you do in the community.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the panelists. Thank you for great information you shared. May God bless you.
Man, thank you.